LSU football as the Tigers celebrate a win over Alabama in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night, where we will talk all about it and break it all down from a football standpoint. And want to get to it because we were talking about some of the plays this morning, especially like the last 2 minutes, the last minute 26 of the first half. Bottle that up and get that to me. Put that in my veins as LSU football for the rest of my life. I mean, was that the best 90 seconds of LSU football that you can remember when you talk about Clyde going over the top, spiking the football in the referee's face? The referee was so shook that he didn't even know he was looking at. He didn't even throw a flag at Clyde that just spiked the ball on his feet. Patrick Queen with an interception gives it back to LSU's offense. Dickerson should have been thrown out of the game for his cheap shot that he put on Kerry Vincent right there that gave LSU the extra 15 and put him at the 11-yard line. And then Joe Burrow takes a shot to the chest and puts one right on the money to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. How about the Baton Rouge native Clyde on Saturday? My man made so much money for his future, showing up in that game, scoring 4 touchdowns against that defense. T and I were talking about some of the moments that jumped out. I guess if you were giving out an offensive game ball, you'd have to give it to Burrow because of his numbers, 31-39, 3 touchdowns on the day. But Clyde, that 3rd and 10 with 14:50 left in the fourth quarter, where he picks it up off of his shoestrings, makes one guy miss, carries Diggs with him 5 yards for the first down. I mean, how many moments on Saturday were created by this LSU football team that were just magical and monumental to this run? Cody Worsham's got a great piece of media of Clyde and his dad after the game, and Cody's close enough where he can pick up the audio, and it is a personal moment, but it's a great moment of Clyde's dad, his old man, Mr. Edwards-Helaire, in the ear of Clyde, telling him, you weren't an SEC back. You weren't big enough. You weren't supposed to be here. And 22 in purple and gold might have been the best player on the field after that 4-hour match between LSU Alabama. It was so good. It was so good from just a viewership standpoint, somebody that enjoyed the game of football, to sit there and watch that contest with LSU a part of it, and for them to come out on the other side with the win, and to see the emotion from Orgeron after the game, crying into the television screen of the CBS cameras, to see LSU's players going in front of the recruiting section at Alabama in Tuscaloosa, telling those guys to get to LSU. Those are the same guys that are going to be in Baton Rouge for the Texas A&M game. Those are the same guys that were in Baton Rouge for the Florida game. That stuff was so powerful for LSU. We told you about the ratings on CBS. Most watch LSU Bama game in the last 8 years, an average of 16 million viewers throughout that broadcast. I want to shut up to you and give you a chance, but I can't shut up. I could just keep going from the moments and everything that stood out from Saturday night. I mean, Joe Burrow, from where he was last year, 365 days ago, coming out of this game and what you thought about him, to what you have now as an LSU football fan and what you're watching, man. Think about it. LSU has a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. You got that on Saturday night.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened. I mean, barring something devastating. I mean, LSU now has the best player in the country, potentially the number 1 pick in the draft, a Heisman Trophy winner.
He outdueled his – I mean, you couldn't have said that more perfect. He outdueled his direct competition. You had two I guess you could frame it like this if you're an LSU fan. You had a superhero and a supervillain go toe-to-toe at the height of their powers, and one emerged unscathed. It is not an exaggeration, Jordy, to call those 4 hours on Saturday one of the best memories and experiences of my entire life. Watching that game with fellow Louisianians in the yard, kids running around, this feeling of community, of kinship, as we're all just surfing the emotional waves of this epic game. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable beginning to end, and I like, to me, that's why sports are so amazing. I want to trade what I experienced and felt Saturday night for anything in the world. It's wild what this game can make you feel sometimes. And I mentioned the superhero analogy here, and like you said, I think that although I could sit here and break down this game from a million different angles, and we'll be tempted to, and probably will throughout this week. But if you're talking about starting points, you have to start exactly where you did. You got to start with Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I call Joe Burrow a superhero. And the reason why is, look, Marvel movies are huge nowadays, right? The interesting thing about Marvel movies, though, is like there's never really that many stakes, right? Like, the superhero at the end of the day is going to save the day. It doesn't matter how threatened the world look. It doesn't matter how dark it gets, how against all odds it looks. Eventually, the superhero comes through, and he saves the day. That's what watching Joe Burrow plays football feels like. He is Captain America, Iron Man, whoever you want to say. I mean, in that house, in that environment, against an elite pass defense, not the best rush defense, but an elite pass defense, everything working. My man went in there, 79% completion on his passes, 393 yards to the air, 3 touchdowns, added 64 rushing yards on 14 carries. Cole Kublik has an excellent stat that he DM'd us on Twitter, Jordy, as I frantically pull it up here. You got it?
I got some time. I'll fill with some numbers that LSU accomplished offensively when you find till you find that stat. This is what they achieved on Saturday from an offensive standpoint by posting the 45 points. That's the most points allowed by Alabama in the Saban era. That's the most points allowed by Alabama in any game since 2003, and that was a 5 overtime loss to Tennessee. Most scored by LSU against Alabama in the history of the series. There are more points than LSU has scored against Alabama in their 5 prior meetings. The 87 combined points, which shattered the over in the third quarter, were the most in series history. Just to give you an idea from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, and so this is what Cole pointed out with Joe Burrow. We talk about doing superhero-like things. Alabama had 11 instances in which they had a chance to get Joe Burrow on the ground. This is not including the sacks. So 11 other pressure situations which they got a hand on him, had a chance to take him down. As Cole charts, they could have accounted for minus 57 yards. Instead, because of Burrow's, remember how much we mentioned his passer rating under pressure last week? How important that was going to be? Yeah. Because of his escapability, because of his ability to keep his eyes downfield and not get rattled. Could have been minus 57 yards. He ends up throwing for 98 yards on those plays. That is a 155-yard swing. And don't get too married to like, well, the exact yardage of that or the process is flawed. No, this is just to give you an idea of just the incredible impact that Burrow has in every single facet.
His decision-making always separates him. I think every Saturday that's really why you have the best quarterback, speaking to LSU fans, because of his decision-making. But to me, the difference on Saturday was the 64 yards he picked up with his legs.
Yeah.
I mean, to keep some plays alive, showed off his athleticism. We still discount him as an athlete. For as much as we know about his athleticism, it still surprises you to see him make plays with the feet the way he does. The quarterback draw in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, to pick up the first down on the third and five was one of the best play calls all day. To me, the best play call of the day was after Najee Harris's touchdown catch on Patrick Queen, where Queen had great position. This Najee Harris and Tua Tagovailoa made the play on first down coming out of that. The fake quarterback draw, step back and hitting Jamar Chase and flipping the field was such just like a
we out you.
That was a pinch to myself, like, what am I watching, man? I mean, even 9 games into this thing, I'm watching LSU's offense in the fourth quarter after the production they had on Saturday and still seeing that play call and thinking to myself, man, look at LSU. I mean, look, nobody in the building expected that play call to come right there. Every defensive back is sucking up on Burrow because you've teased him all day with the quarterback's ability to run the ball, and you've called quarterback draw at that point. Both linebackers suck up. The DB comes up. Jamar Chase is standing by himself. 20 yards down the field. I mean,
give the man his credit.
Everything on Saturday was just clicking, working, and looked magnificent in its execution.
And it's funny because I always judge like I used to think I like to watch games alone, and I've maybe come to see that I like to watch them with other people because as you're discussing the game live, it gives me even further insight, I think, into how I'm feeling and what I've realized in watching LSU and Joe Burrow this year. And this goes in line with the superhero thing. I have a rational faith in the man, right? Like, it doesn't matter what happens. I find myself just continually counting on Burrow to find a way, and he continuously rewards that faith. I specifically remember there was a rough third quarter on Saturday. All the momentum taken from you. And even go back to like the first drive where you're driving and then they get the big sack, turnover. I mean, everything went to script according to Alabama. And Burrow even missed a couple throws, right? That were open and could have really
he missed a crosser on Jefferson when he was rolling a little to his left, and then the Jamar Chase corner route
could have been a touchdown.
That was a touchdown. Yeah, I agree.
But the point being, after he missed that Chase throw, the party's a little frustrated. Everybody's a little tense, right? Everybody's on edge, as of course. And I just remember saying to my friends, like, look, man, nobody is more upset about missing those throws than Joe Burrow is. And we all know what Joe Burrow does when he's angry. And lo and behold, what did Joe Burrow do when he's angry? He went and he dominated. So Joe Burrow is a superhero. And then, I know we got to go to break, so maybe we get this on the way back. But, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire deserves just all the credit in the world as well. 180 total yards on 29 touches. And this is, think about this, the Auburn game, the other biggest game of the year. Clyde had 33 touches for 180, 30 for 180 this time. The man shows up when it matters most.
Hey, about the Texas game.
The Texas game. 4 touchdowns for Clyde on Saturday. And here's my favorite stat, and you saw it, but so he had 103 yards rushing, 74 of the 103 coming after contact, according to Pro Football Focus. And you think about the excellent route and catch for the touchdown right before the half with 11 seconds left, which is sneaky good for a running back. It looks routine. It's really not. The incredible catch and juke that Jordy mentioned on the 3rd and 10, where he catches the back end of the ball by his fingertips and still has the wherewithal to somehow get the first down. The spin move on the touchdown, where you got an unblocked. It's the perfect call by Alabama. An unblocked corner blitz, and Clyde's escapability is just unreal. And then carrying people in the end zone. How about this? After he's crying, like he gets the nail in the coffin touchdown, right? And it should have been. And we can express frustrations about allowing that ridiculous one-play touchdown afterwards. That should have been the nail in the coffin. He's on the sideline having an incredibly emotional moment. It is a great human moment between him and is that Mickey Joseph that's with him there? And then after that crazy Alabama score, for him to lock back in, and the first play, you need one first down to win the game. I can't tell you how many times I've been in this situation. And it is so hard to get that first down when you know the entire stadium knows you're running it. Everybody knows you're running the ball. And yet what do? They iced the game first play. And it was great blocking by the O-line. Clyde didn't get touched till the 5-yard mark. But once he got hit at the 5-yard mark, nobody was stopping him from getting that first down. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, take a bow. Everything Jordy said. I mean, he is a Baton Rouge hero now and forever, as he should be.
Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. How about Cade York? Shout out to the freshman kicker on Saturday. There's tons more to unpack from Tuscaloosa. We want to hear from you. We're going to open up the phone lines at some point. 499-1045, 225 area code 499-1045. Get lined up. We'll open up the lines here on Off the Bench.